Hey everybody, Jason Bermas here, and buckle up because we're going to be talking about NexGen, and this is going to go well beyond just NASA and the aviation system of what we're going to begin with, but it's going to be one of these follow the dots of different government, corporate, and academic agencies that get together under the NASA NexGen program. Okay, we're going to watch a promotional video from 2013 on 2025, and now this harmonization has been integrated across the board. And what I'm trying to have people visualize here is this is the military-industrial complex in action, bringing you a mandated, integrated, global reset system. Okay, that's what this is. All right? And I often go to Dennis Bushnell. Now, at the end of this, we'll probably go to Bushnell, but I have another person at NASA, okay? And basically, he's the businessman. He's the guy that's going to push this techno-fascist model. And what do I mean by that? Well, in some ways, he's going to integrate systems of industry into automation, downsizing the actual workforce, okay, and bringing in automation. And it's funny because there's no space travel discussed whatsoever. This is financial systems, and this is a video actually from 2017 under the Trump administration. So there's a lot we're going to be going over, a lot. Now, some of it may be boring to some people. I'm sorry. We've got to get into things that are minutia and intricate because this is their front language. These are their code words: sustainability, productivity. But at the end of the day, it is not only a track, trace, database society of total control and control on information, but they want control over the internet of bodies, okay, which is you and me on the way to a transhumanist agenda. So thumbs it up, subscribe, share. We're across the board. We're rumbling. We're on Rockfin. Remember, we need to do that because we are censored so much on YouTube and taken down. So here's where we're going to begin right here. This is the next generation air transportation system. And they may not be on track exactly to get to where they want to be by 2025 in the video, but I think that more and more we're seeing these things integrated, especially when we get to the homeland security aspect of this. Okay, and just like we've been talking about continuity of government and the National Programs Office, it's a consolidation of power. But this time, they're ready to go global. And they let you know that in this video. Okay, so let's get to the video. Let's start it off right here and start playing.
In the 1950s, Americans first drove on interstate highways. In 1969, Americans first landed on the moon.
So let's stop this. Again, there's so much lore, okay, around the moon landing. And we went to the moon. And all of that lore has really let NASA portray this image that somehow they are about space exploration, and that's it. And that is far, far, far from the truth. First of all, the space exploration we're really talking about is the exploration, in most cases, of the weaponization of the space that we can control. Let me make that very, very clear. And we've had relationships with the Russians. I've talked about the Blackjack program. I've talked about the head of the space agency talking about their nuclear capabilities in space. And I've also talked about how, China has been integrated. And recently, they just launched their own space program with the Heavenly Palace, okay, because they got excluded from the ISS in 2011. And this is their new deal. They had their launch. All I can say about this is an indication that China has also weaponized a portion of space, okay? And we need to keep that in mind. and go beyond this Hollyweird propaganda of, oh, we must worship NASA and we're going to the moon and Mars and all these other places.
Getting to the moon required a monumental effort by the United States government and many partners in industry. Once a common goal had been established, these partners invented their way onto another world.
Oh, they did.
Now we face a task no less daunting: reinventing our nation's air transportation system. Over the past 60 years, this system has evolved. It's been automated, upgraded with computer technology for communication, navigation, and surveillance. The parts work together. Redundancies make it safe. Innovations make it safer still. It's a system that has served our nation brilliantly, but with expected increases in demand and with new aircraft coming, it's time to transform the system. Such a change cannot be accomplished by one agency working alone. As a result, Congress directed the creation.
Let's just stop right there. Okay? Okay? Department of Transportation. Oh, that's some Pete Bootlicker territory. Defense. Oh, Commerce. Wow. So you have the Defense Department, Homeland Security, NASA, okay, the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy. So this is that, again, integration.
Of the Joint Planning and Development Office as a way for all critical organizations, government, industry, labor, and the academic community to work together to create the next generation air transportation system. NexGen. NexGen will resemble the system we experience today. To the traveler of tomorrow, it's simple. You take off, read, text, tweet, and before you know it, arrive at your destination.
By the way, that should let you know how much they had invested in Twitter as a Trojan horse civilian system, that they were talking about what? Tweeting. This is, again, a 2013 for 2025 video, and I get it. Some of this is like blasé, but a lot of this is their propaganda. And wait till you get to the Homeland Security part. It looks like something out of Total Recall.
But for the air transportation system, change will be all-encompassing. TSA is developing new screening techniques using advanced sensors that can move travelers efficiently through security to departure gates.
So let's just stop it right there. You would notice if I brought it back, okay, that on the little panel right here, oops, sorry folks, on the left-hand side, the below panel, and let's do that. And by the way, these sensors are again, not only the kind of, we'll go there. Let's show you this NASA technology they were talking about in 2001. See, there's Homeland Security over the left-hand side. All right, let's just type in sensors. We're going to get smart dust. We're going to get all sorts of stuff. Spectral sensors, virtual presence. Bushnell himself discusses how they could get geolocation on anything, and they don't even need to be from above in that type of surveillance anymore because they have micro sensors all across. 32 times sensors comes up in this, right? Comms, computing, sensors, electronics. Let's keep going through this. Nanosensors, all right? We got smart dust in here. Molecular biosensors. Oh, molecular and biosensors. Smart card sensors. Let's keep going through. Oh, there it was. I want to go back. Smart dust. Cubic millimeters or less. Combined sensors. Comms with power supplies. Floats in air currents. Nanotags. Let's not forget our co-opted insects. And remember Davos talking about that collective intelligence and when humans become cyborgs, their presentation from 2020. You can't make this stuff up. I mean, it's out in the open, folks. Oh, sorry, we're going to get to some next gen. By the way, this spans all over the place, and that's why this is the NASA. It's not just, okay, look, NexGen Federal Systems, delivering transformative solutions. Who do they work for? The Department of Defense, the federal government, and commercial companies. This is the integration. Why NexGen? It's across the board. And then they have their little leaders program. Okay? We're even going to get into the International Dairy Farmers of America to show you how this is integrating into your very food supply. This whole NexGen push throughout. Right? It's a real deal. And that's why it's important to understand that this is the vision they had, the track trace database global vision to harmonize all this stuff back in 2013.
TSA is developing new screening techniques using advanced sensors that can move travelers efficiently through security to departure gates. Using GPS, advanced technologies and procedures will allow aircraft to fly more precise approach and landing patterns, meaning that runways can be safely positioned in close proximity to expand capacity, but not airport boundaries. And traffic on taxiways, ramps, and runways will be handled more efficiently, saving time and reducing aircraft idling and engine emissions.
You know what you don't see in any of these models? People. Everything's more efficient. And productivity, Bushnell tells you in 2011, is the code word for automation, robotization. He discusses the UBI, but ultimately, what is it? Bringing you into the virtual age and uploading your consciousness. And using these methods of industry, right? These innocuous organizations via, oh, we have this office now, and under this office is the transportation secretary, right? The Commerce Department. What do you got? Oh, the Defense Department. Oh, Homeland Security. Oh, NASA. Right? And then they're all working and integrating with private industry and academia. Come on. And by the way, as we go through this, I think that they talk about a GPS system that is one authoritative source. Well, that again is a running line through all this. One authoritative source. Even Eric Schmidt, steering member over on Bilderberg, over in D.C. this weekend, he discussed one answer. In fact, let's bring that up live because that's so important. The one authoritative source. One answer. So we'll type in Eric Schmidt, one answer. And they told you they were going to do this. Let's see. Is a single perfect search result, 2015. And one, there it is, right there. Okay. Well, that's a bug. We should be able to give you the right answer just once. We should know what you meant. You should look for information. We should get it exactly right. One authoritative source. And that's what they're trying to give you. Let's continue with the video.
Highly efficient engine technologies now being developed by NASA and the aviation industry will make possible quieter engines. These engines may be powered by alternative fuels that emit fewer pollutants. Advanced aircraft materials will result in lighter, stronger planes. Better operational procedures in approach and departure airspace will improve fuel efficiency and reduce noise. Automated information sharing will give air traffic controllers and pilots better situational awareness. The simultaneous sharing of location, speed, and altitude helps to better manage flight paths, adding capacity and making the entire system more efficient. Weather will always be a factor in aviation. Next-gen aircraft will be able to avoid inclement weather thanks to a common picture. One authoritative source for up-to-the-minute weather information available to everyone in the system. Since air transportation is international, these systems will need to be harmonized across national borders.
Oh, we're going to have to harmonize these things through national borders. Boy, you couldn't ever see that being a problem after the last 2+ years of varying, I don't know, authoritarian mandates. And mandate is going to be the key word. Okay? So let's keep going down here. But again, this is about international techno-fascism, oh, we're going to have a system, all right. There's going to be no rogues anywhere. Everybody's going to be on the same system, one authoritative source. We're going to get rid of a bunch of people in these, especially when we talk about things that you got to keep safe, right? Not only that, think about this. We're talking about planes and the safety there of taking human beings out. Pete Bootlicker, Transportation Secretary, has talked about what? Nobody dying. You can't make this stuff up on the roads. Well, what does that mean? A fully automated system. Let's see. Let's type it in. Pete Buttigieg. Nobody has to die on freeway. Let's see. Reduce road deaths. That's the first thing that came up. That's kind of a clown show. Okay. Let's see. Let's try again. Racism on the road. I promise you. He said nobody has to die. Nobody. On a freeway. On roads. Let's see. Let's try roads. Google's so terrible these days. 0 deaths on roads. I can't make this stuff. It pains me that I'm right about it, but it pains me more that they want to give me the right answer, right? Eric Schmidt wanted to give me the right answer. How hard was that? Why did it take 2 tries and I had to go down? Yeah, 0 deaths on roads is a national goal. This was back in February. It's a clown show. They want to control every aspect of your life. All automation. No more free will. Believe the hype.
As with building the interstate highway system or landing on the moon, arriving at this vision of the future will take collaboration, research, and the application of advanced technology. Transformation won't be easy, but behind the scenes, every day, the NexGen government partners, along with the aviation community, are contributing their expertise and resources to a single goal.
You hear that? Behind the scenes. Well, I thought things didn't happen behind the scenes. Weird. That's so odd. Jason, you're crazy. There's no behind the scenes stuff going on. And then they tell you, behind the scenes, we've got a single goal. It's the Department of Defense, Commerce, Homeland Security, FAA, NASA, the airlines, the airports, the local municipalities, the states. No big deal. I mean, Bermas, why are you so upset? Why are you so concerned? Because none of this has been voted on by you or me. All right? And we get to this local, this global leaders program. It's kind of everywhere, this NexGen. Forget about just the security. Again, they're integrating as much of this together with their slogans as possible and their reach and their networking. So we're only going to play a short little part of this new kind of meeting of these new leaders in the industry. So you like Yo Plate is there because it's the Dairy Association. And we're talking about right now food shortages. Okay. And that's why I think it's important to show you that this reaches into every aspect of our lives. And NASA really headed up this program.
My NexGen experience has really shown me that the future of the dairy industry is bright.
Nestle.
I saw the NexGen Leadership Program as a path to learning more about the issues that impact our farmers and specifically how to advocate effectively on their behalf.
It was not just good old leadership seminar, and the IDFA staff was very helpful and accommodating throughout the whole program.
That's Sargento.
Certainly what has impressed me is the depth and the breadth of the experience across the members that were part of the NexGen program and the caliber of the guest speakers that came to speak and interact with us.
What distinguishes this program from any other is how the events are selected and put together. It's a very good combination of different things. It's not just classroom learning. There's a field aspect of it. There is meetings, the congressman on the Hill.
So you get to schmooze with the congressman on the Hill and the senators and the government. When they talk about, in the World Economic Forum, penetrating these different aspects of cabinets, etc., and business and religion and food. This is the kind of thing they're doing to integrate and harmonize everything. All right. And you know what? You can't make it up. We'll do it live. Let's type in biosensors in food, because in that NASA document, all right, let's type in food and find it, because I know that we could get down to even more. I mean, there's so many sensors, but there's micro sensors, right? It's actually into the food supply. And how do I know this? Hold on. Because it's on the same page. Oh, and of course I spelled that wrong. As the Trojan horse civilian systems. Okay? Binary bio into the food supply. 2001 document. Dennis Bushnell. And we're going to get to it like exactly how NASA reps the idea of getting rid of human beings and bringing in bots and automation and privatizing within not only the NASA agency, okay, but they want to mandate it across the board for all agencies to run. Okay? So let's type that in. Binary biologics into food. Binary bios food. We'll do it live. Let's see. Working group. Let's go to news. Right there. Oh boy, that's right there. Counseling on common ground. I'm glad that came up first. Identity stuff came up. What do we got right here? Using binary matrices. Eesh. So you know what? Let's skip over the rest of this. You get it. This is the networking. This is big business colluding with the government, and really the globalization of what gets done with the food supply. All right? So I want to show you what their vision of what gets done with the food supply. They've got a world food program based on biometrics for refugee centers using blockchain for people. And then we're going to have the NASA guy. All right, but I want to reiterate this. Oh, it runs on blockchain. Great. That's so awesome. I want to be there. They don't need physical money there. We'll just scan their eye as they look into the camera. And then that gives them their World Food Program account. It's awesome. So awesome. No doubt about it. Look, it can store a person's digital identity. Great. You don't need paperwork or passports or exam certificates or financial histories. And hey, with so many places getting destroyed these days or seized by hostile governments, there's going to be a lot of this stuff. We can just pay them directly to the refugees because, currency doesn't really mean anything anymore. And stop all these costs of transactions. Great. Okay? No need for a bank account or cash with the blockchain. Right to your World Food Program account where you can get your food at your slave center, really. There you go. There's your food. Great. Okay? So now we're going to get into a new friend from NASA, everybody. Okay? And this is going to have some boring parts on there, but I need you to understand how this pushes through and how this gets past people. All right? That's a big, big deal. Let's see. I want to say thank you to Arthur Vento and Elijah Kramer for supporting me. And he says, support me also on the Buy Me a Coffee. The links are down below. That's a great way to support me, guys. If you really like the show, you like what I'm doing here, please consider buying me a coffee or 3. I love you guys for all that. So this is the kind of if you're in a business and you can't make certain conferences, you get into that corporate world. Like I worked in a small MSP company. I got a small little taste of it. But a lot of my friends end up doing this, and you go to these workshops and you meet each other, and really they're just events so that you can schmooze, so show your products or what you're doing, and then make these connections and maybe cut some business deals, right? And then you have the speakers that are trying to optimize or sell you on their software, etc. This is a dude from NASA selling you on the idea of optimization, bots, okay, and techno-fascism. So you're a government agency, but what you're going to do is you're going to outsource and provide a service for these people, which costs less than anywhere else, and give them the best customer service, and that's what's going to fund the agency. All right, so let's get into it.
Thanks for watching this special program, The Journey to a Next-Gen Federal Government, brought to you by CSRA. I'm your host, Francis Rose, with the Government Matters Thought Leadership Network.
Thought Leadership Network.
The Trump administration believes shared services makes more sense now than ever. They say properly managed, it can lead to innovative new business practices, lower operating costs, a more efficient use of technology, and better customer service. We have a lot of ground to cover in the next 30 minutes, including NASA's journey to shared services, the federal journey to next-gen IT, and DoD's journey to MilCloud 2.0. So let's get right to it.
And guys, we may do future broadcasts. You can actually watch this whole thing, okay? But if you just type in next gen government, all right, that's why, I mean, think about that. Department of Defense, economy, NASA spearheading this. You're going to find out what shared services is. This is nowhere. No one's talking about any of this stuff. And this is a video from 4 years ago, 2017. So we may do another video on the 2 other interviews there, but I just wanted to really integrate the NASA stuff because NASA is that agency that's allowed to encompass a lot of the military-industrial complex at top levels and keep the compartmentalization inspired by the Manhattan Project and others, okay, going. That's the reality. So here's another NASA rep, okay, and again, this is what they actually do.
Joining me first, Mark Glorioso, Executive Director of the NASA Shared Services Center in Hancock County, Mississippi. Mark, thanks very much for joining me today. You run a multifunction shared services operation that includes financial management, IT, human resources, and other functions.
Did you see that? Financial management, IT, human resources, and other functions.
Did you stand those up all at once, or did you stand them up individually, and why'd you choose what you're working on today?
About 10 years ago, NASA decided to implement the Shared Service Center, and they stood up a large majority of what we are today all at one time. It took many years for them, I say a couple of passes at this, to really determine what was the best approach and what should start. They did a study where they looked at what should be in, what should not be in, what should we look at later. And over that 10-year period of time, we steadily put a baseline in play. We tried to get as good and as tight a service as we could get. And then we slowly but surely continue to migrate things in, as recently as last year, moving in simplified acquisitions as our latest new service of a large size. We move smaller things in on a regular basis.
How do you decide when you look at something? You said this took a couple of passes. How do you decide when you look at something that we want to learn a lesson from this and go in a different direction?
Well, we're always trying to do those lessons learned. We're constantly modifying our practice. We use a Lean Six Sigma capability. We're always looking for ways to improve the services that we're doing. We're actually implementing bots now. We've got a couple that are working as real digital workforce employees and doing some of our services.
Let's just stop it right there. 2017, he's letting you know we've already implemented bots. And later on, he's going to tell you how he downsized the staff of about 20 people to 5. And he's very proud of that. Okay? And you're going to find out as he talks about that. He's very gleeful. They're doing all these integrated services. I want to let you know what these partnerships actually look like. All right? There's a reason that we harp on NASA, because they look like SpaceX and Michael Griffin and Elon Musk. Okay? They look like the Blackjack program. They look like Google. Okay? They look like Google. You talk about a decade ago, he says, why the new Google-NASA partnership marks an era in the history of computing. So that's the real type of integrations that you're talking about. They have control of big tech. Remember, they mentioned Twitter even back in 2013 in their little flight monologue. And you can't forget, when you talk about transhumanism, well, Calico, and headed up by Ray Kurzweil, is Google's immortality division. That's what I want to put out there. And Bushnell is constantly talking about taking the neocortex, right, and replicating it in silicon, right, and trying to make it work, AI, all that stuff. This guy's telling you that they've integrated bots in 2017, all right? under NASA. And they want this model throughout. And by the way, they want it through mandates because that's the only way it's going to get done. But we'll get there.
We look at the transactions that we do and we decide which ones of these are really best done by a machine. And a lot of our people have said, wow, this is great. Now we can really focus on the customer service aspect of what shared service is about.
The new administration has made shared services kind of a centerpiece of a number of different things it has talked about. One of those is the agency reform plans it expects every agency to undertake. How has that impacted the work that you're doing? Has it accelerated things? Have you just kept going apace? Because it sounds like 10 years is a long time to be on this train.
Well, it's very interesting. About 18 months ago, we started working with the USSM to talk about how would we build a federal shared service center that would be somewhat independent. It seems difficult for a lot of agencies, especially NASA, to say, well, it's not really my mission to go provide shared services for some other agency. So it's difficult for us to start opening those doors. On the other side of that, we thought, wow, an independent agency would be really something valuable. And so we, for the last 18 months, put together what that agency / government corporation would look like.
/ government corporation would look like. Do you get? All right. I mean, you wonder why I named this the NexGen Government Initiative is the fast track to Techno-Fascist tyranny. The very definition of fascism is what he just said, a corporate government entity. An agency, if you will. I mean, this is just so out in the open. But then, again, it's akin to whispered history, right? This is meant for people in the business. This is much their own speak and jargon, their code words, right? And it's just day to day to day. But when you explain this to a normal person saying, hey, the government is supposed to protect us, okay, in large part when corporations get out of control. They shouldn't be working hand in hand how to manage the population. Wow.
We've thought about how to implement that, and right now we're just kind of on a little bit of a pause, as the agency says, so that we can see exactly what they want to do and how they want to proceed. I'd like to think that NASA Shared Service Center can kind of be the catalyst to bring this whole thing to fruition.
10 years, as you said, you've been on it, strikes me as one of the longer term efforts in shared services in the federal government. You're working on something called a shared services operating model. Tell me what that is, what it does.
Mostly what we did was we took all of our service level agreements, all of the things that we were going to do, and we tried to figure out how are we going to pay for all this? Because that's always a big push, right? So we were one of the pioneers to get a working capital fund that allowed us to collect our cost-centered information. We get our plans, we put together our transaction costs for the year. We're very transparent with all of our agency, all 10 of our centers, and they tell us what their demand's going to be for the year. We put together a nice package that we review every year. And so our operating model is it's a demand model, and we have in our contract now, we use a contractor that gives a lot of fixed price service. So that model that we have, I think, has evolved over 10 years and 2 contracts now, and I would put it up against any in the whole agencies.
It sounds like it's mature enough to be able to be replicated, scaled, whatever.
Listen to how these people talk. It sounds like it can be scaled and replicated. And again, this is to push this into other agencies. You know, forget about checks and balances. We like the military-industrial complex model. That's the reality of the situation. They love that model of inaccountability of corporate fascism. They're talking about scaling it. All right? And in a minute, you know, after he praises it, he's going to say, well, you know, the naysayers would say this. And essentially, the guy from NASA is going to say that's smoke and mirrors, but then prove exactly what he says.
Pretty much all across government. Is that a fair observation, you think?
I believe it is. There are a lot of people who would argue with that. And one of the things that we do when we add new services is we realize we can't just jump into a fixed price service on something we've never done. So we bring it in with this kind of a cost plus environment. We get good at it. We figure out what it really takes to do it. we're measuring, we got a measuring stick to measure against what we did before we moved this latest simplified acquisition over. And we're tracking that every day to make sure we're actually on target with what we said we would do. And when we do all that, we end up with doing what we said we would do, proving that we could do that, and it gives us this way to grow our model and prove to ourselves that we can move to a fixed price model on these transactions.
So I want to explain what he just said there. We come at these things at a cost plus model. What does that mean? That means we have all the money in the world to take an industry or business that may have been built from the ground up by somebody else. And we don't need to make a profit necessarily, but we work it out how it can be more cost efficient so we can undercut them and put them out of business. I mean, through government agency. Talk about picking winners and losers, guys. This is why I harp so much on the Musker-Do's government contracts inside of Tesla, alone should raise alarm bells, but especially with SpaceX and NASA. Come, wake up and smell the cough toffee.
I jotted down a list of the various benefits of shared services that have been talked about over the years. Lower operating costs, improved customer service, cost savings, increased cybersecurity, flexible, scalable operations. Which of those do you think are the most important ones, and what are some ways that you're seeing out of any on that list or any other benefits that you've seen? What are some of the ones that really jump out at you as most important?
When I took this job with the Shared Service Center, I came from a long history of being an engineer at the agency. And I got up in front of that group and I said, we may not be the ones that are building the spacecraft. We may not be the ones that are flying on the spacecraft, but what we do enables our agency to be successful.
So again, he comes from the engineering background, which again also is highly, highly compartmentalized. And then now he tells you, well, our division really isn't about space travel, as most of NASA isn't, but it enables that. Without us making the cash do through techno-fascism, we can't do all this other cool stuff behind the scenes.
So our number one theme always is the customer experience. We've got to make it easier for the engineer to buy the transistors to build the circuit board. We've got to make it easier for them to travel and not have to worry about all of these regulations and things that come down. And it's a struggle sometimes. But I think customer service is it. You've got to show the value to the people. You're getting better than you had. And then followed, but not very far behind, is the cost. You've got to show that it's worth doing because it costs less.
What do you need the most help with when it comes to executing this, getting it on steroids and making it work better than it works for you today? Whether it's process automation, stripping out those restrictions and holdups for your people or anything like that?
For many years we've been saying if we build it, they will come. And I think we need to take a model approach that says if they come, we'll build it. And I think nobody's going to come just because, oh, let's go do shared services. And we can show all the data in the world, but we can talk miles and miles into this thing. It really boils down to the change management and the people involved. And people are afraid to change what they do. And I've even been told, it's not that what you're saying isn't good, but if we thought of a better way to do it, don't you think we'd have already thought of it and been doing it? So I struggle with that a little bit, but I really think that what it's going to take is a mandate.
A mandate. A mandate for techno-fascism. Because that's what we're really talking about here. All right? I want to make that extremely clear. When they're talking about it again in agency speak. We need to move forward with this. They're talking about models where they get into the capitalism market and work out the competition on an unlimited budget. It's the same way that they use lawfare. When I say they, I mean people of influence, large corporations, etc., to go after people in fraudulent suits when they're in the right and basically ruin them even if they win. That happens constantly.
It's going to take a requirement that says, okay, enough agencies, we know this is the answer. this is how you're going to do it.
This is how you're going to do it.
So I mentioned some of the benefits. I've also written a list of some of the things that people have used as reasons to not go to shared services.
You see his little smile? Look at his little smirk while he says it. We haven't pulled it back yet. Look, he's so smirky. He's like, oh, the people that are complaining the humans are going away. The people that are complaining that this isn't really capitalism. Okay? That this is authoritarianism. You're talking about mandates, those people. Let's talk about them for a moment.
I mentioned some of the benefits. I've also written a list of some of the things that people have used as reasons to not go to shared services. Costs a lot up front, losing control over agency functions because somebody else is going to be able to run something, job killer, customization is difficult. It's just another hassle, something added on to what I'm already doing. How did you address some of those as you encountered resistance over the years?
Well, first of all, I just want to say that's smoke and mirrors, and then I can explain a few of these. The job market, the people. When we moved Simplified Acquisitions to NASA, we left people that were doing the job at one or two of our centers doing that work. They reported up through the Shared Service Center. They had a centralized process, and we kept them in what we called a badge in place. I thought that was probably the best way to move faster. And we've gone from having 20 when we first started of these people that are out in the field to down to about 5. And that attrition has allowed us to kind of shrink down the workforce in a slow way and take advantage of their skill and their knowledge.
Let me just stop you right there. He literally just said right there, loss of jobs. Yeah. And the other part is he's gleeful about it. And he talks about how we sucked them of all their information dry so we could scale them out. Let's just bring it back and how gleeful he is at the end of this. These people, when we're talking about jobs, what does Bushnell tell you? All right? He tells you there is nothing the machines cannot do. And we will have to upload into the machines. And notice how he also talks about it being a slower process.
Down to about 5. And probably the best way to move faster. And we've gone from having 20 when we first started of these people that are out in the field to down to about 5. And that attrition has allowed us to kind of shrink down the workforce in a slow way and take advantage of their skill and their knowledge. These people knew a lot of things.
We have about a minute left, Mark. I want to go back to what you talked about at the beginning of our conversation, saying that you took a couple of passes at this and tried some things. What did you learn from that process that an agency that's just going down this path today you think would benefit from?
Yeah, I wasn't there when we started this, so I'm only speaking from what I've been told and thought through. I think we would have been, or it's very important, to make the mandate and don't revisit the decision.
You hear what he just said there? Make the mandate, don't revisit the decision. The entire conversation was about techno-fascism, okay, reducing the workforce, the productivity code word Bushnell talks about in the Blue Tech Forum. And he says, don't look back. Wow. So these are your NASA reps, guys.
There's been a lot of people, and we say this jokingly, but in the government, the decision was made, now the debate begins. And we let that happen. And I think that we should have said, these are the things that are changing, and then not entertained anything else.
That's authoritarianism. These are the things that are changing, and just ignored everything else. Who gets to vote on this? We're talking about government agencies here.
And the second thing we did is we let arguments get in there, and we lost our appetite for growth. It was like, okay, this is too hard. Let's declare victory. And so we didn't grow for a few years. And those are the two big lessons. Don't look back and don't relent. And when people come out of the woodwork because you're taking their work or you're changing their job or you're doing any of these things, I mean, I've been told, you know, well, I can't walk down the hall anymore and grab Billy and talk to him about the procurement. Well, do you realize Billy hasn't been sitting in that office for 15 years?
Bullshit argument. Basically, they're telling you, oh, there's going to be less people. There's going to be less human interaction. Okay, you're not going to be able to have those private conversations anymore. That's the reality. Everything tracked, traced, data-based. I mean, when you're talking about the national security apparatus, they'd rather you not have a private conversation, a human conversation.
Been in another building and you haven't done it anyway. Oh, that's the kind of stuff that there's a lot of folklore that positions itself around, we're going to fight this because we just don't want it.
We're going to fight automation and the transhuman agenda. So I do want to end with some Bushnell. I want to end with the progression of Bushnell, not only talking about the progression of the global mind, which is their Trojan horse civilian system, Google, right? And when we talk about military-industrial complex, we talk about integration, I want to talk about, really quickly, Google and their drone program. Google employees protest drone. Okay, the business of war. Yeah, I wouldn't want to do that either. No. I mean, we could talk about the easy stuff like Palantir and the CIA and the Army and Zelensky. We do talk about that stuff. Shout out to Charlie Skelton. Did an amazing piece. Very darkly humorous. Had me laughing out loud about Bilderberg 2022. It's at The Guardian. It's over on my Twitter. Make sure to check it out. Before we get to Bushnell, talking about these systems that they're utilizing and the global brain essentially being Google in the beginning, and then getting to an AI point where all of your emails are read, all of the phone calls are listened to, and it's all integrated into algorithms. Before we get there, thumbs it up, subscribe, and share. And remember, down below are the links that you can support me. The Buy Me the Coffee is a great way, as well as the Rockfin. So let's get to Bushnell now, the chief scientist who's been there, I don't know. First of all, you know what? Let's have him talk about sustainability. Let's do the 2+ minute clip. Maybe I won't talk for like 2.5 minutes and you can decide for yourself. Okay? He tells you it's Malthus 101 and they might, I don't know, institute population control. And the code word is sustainability. That's another thing NASA's all about. The climate change agenda. And then we'll get into Google and the global brain. I know this is a long one, but hey, sometimes we got to go deep down that NASA rabbit hole.
No-brainer. The ecosystem appears to be crashing. Freshwater shortages, you people know that, that's what you hear. Species extinctions, the emergence of fragile human-engendered monoculture biomes. There's the climate change stuff, pollution of all manner, deforestation, loss of topsoil and wildlife habitat. The humans are practicing anti-terraforming, where terraforming is what you do to make the ecosystem more salubrious for humans.
So once again, I want to point out NASA also at the forefront of saying humans bad, we're destroying the planet, bad, 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 bad.
In fact, prevention of collapse of the ecosystem has now become the overwhelming issue. Current food production is based on freshwater plants, i.e. glycophytes. We're running out of fresh water, as you know. The code word is sustainability. I
love those code words.
Crashing of the ecosystem is due to population growth and the way we're now living, our standard of living. The estimates vary between 30 and 50% of a planet that we're currently short to sustain the standard of living and the current population, much less the population growth. As the Asians and their billions come up as they are at 9 to 11% growth rate to Western standards of living, we're going to be short 3 more planets, and they're not readily available. This will result in peak everything. This will result in standards of living plunging. There's a partial solution to this.
So let's stop it there. Again, people bad, your standard of living going down, sustainability, the code word, all there. And he talks about a partial solution, but in other times he talks about the real solution. And this is just really one of the solutions. He's talking about halophyte plants and growing in salt water and all these places that are deserts, right? And we could easily give everybody energy, food, housing, clothing, solves all the problems. Well, they're not interested in that. They're not interested in that.
And that is to switch to halophyte salt plants grown on wastelands and deserts using saline salt water. 22 nations are doing this. This literally solves, as I'll get into, land, water, food, which is the halophytes. You can grow just on a goodly portion of the Sahara sufficient biomass to replace all the fossil carbon fuels, to provide petrochemical feedstock for all the plastics anybody wants, and grow enough food so everybody gets to eat, and return some of the 68 to 70% of the fresh water that's now used for conventional agriculture, as advertised, solves land, water, food, energy, and climate.
Solves it.
So this is Malthus 101. These innate ecosystem restrictions and shortfalls will necessarily shift world econometrics from a growth mantra to one of sustainability, with possible population control instigated along the way.
So they're talking population control. They're talking Malthus 101. They move into that very, very gradually. After telling you the technology exists, that we could solve the problem without that. Okay? I just want to point that out. So let's get to Bushnell here, talking about this global brain.
The machines are capable of really good deep learning, and that's what most of the current AI is based on. The current AI is essentially soft computing. It's neural nets, fuzzy logic, algorithms, and the deep learning. The machines coming up as we leave silicon and go to bio-optical, quantum, nano, molecular, and atomic computing, there's another 10 to the 8th to 10 to the 12th to go. We've come 10 to the 8th so far. The machine intelligence, currently, there's the soft computing business, but no one really sees a way to get to humans via deep learning or soft computing. They just don't, not yet. There's no breakthrough in algorithms. What we are doing, which will get to humans, people now think, and this is what's worrying people, is the biomimetics part. This is where you nanosection the neocortex, replicate it in silicon, and you don't have to understand how it works, you just have to make it work this way as an artificial human brain surrogate. They will all go to Google. Oh, God. Okay? So this is now the de facto global brain, which will only get better. And we are busily, with nanosensors and other sensors, networking within 10 years some 3 trillion sensors. So the global brain will be fed with all of this information, okay, and it will have all of the contents of all the libraries, and it will read all of everybody's emails and everything else, and so you end up with a really big global brain. That's different from intelligence.
It is different from intelligence, but again, they've set that system up as the track, trace, database, full algorithm, reading all the sensors, brain, okay? And we're just going to end it with Bushnell once again saying, hey, what do we do about all the people? Well, we become the machines. It's not us versus them. There's not really a choice. We're going to have to upload into the machine. So thumbs this up, subscribe, share. Remember to Rockfin, where everything uncensored is over there. If you're new to the program, all my documentary films, by the way, are free. We'll give one last Bushnell quote here before we end the broadcast.
There will be essentially no jobs the machines cannot do.
No jobs. No jobs the machines can't do. And that's why we focused on that other gentleman from NASA. What? Slowly reducing the workforce and bringing in automation and bots and AI.
We currently have creative software that are doing ideation just as good or better than humans now. The creative jobs will be the last ones to go, but I have not been able to discern any jobs that machines cannot do as machine intelligence and all the rest of the autonomous robotics develops. So now we're to your question, okay, what do you do with these people? There's essentially 3 options. You've covered one, which is the guaranteed income. And the machines can produce the productivity, the wealth necessary to pay this. It's just the machines do the work instead of the people. Yes, you have to change the cultural milieu, but you know, this is eventually doable.
The cultural milieu. Yeah, you're going to have to get on a UBI. The old slave UBI. Weird how I've been talking about that for a while.
This is only one approach. The second approach is the fact that What's changed since you last looked at this is the whole technology level, and we humans are now converting ourselves into cyborgs. We now have artificial retinas, artificial hearts, we have brain chips. DARPA is working on brain chips for super soldiers. We can have a high bandwidth COM port built in, so we don't have to use the sensors, and they're very limited bandwidth.
And by the way, he praises Musk in 2018 for that. Musk with his little Neuralink. And he also says in 2018, there are a couple 100,000 people who already have those brain chips. No big deal. But at the end of the day, he'll let you know, hey, we're going to become the machines and we're going to upload.
And eventually this all ends up with uploading into the machines, and instead of us versus them, humans versus the machines, we become them, or they become us, or you end up with human contaminated machines.
Or you end up with human contaminated machines. Folks, NexGen. Learn about it. Learn about NASA. Learn about the military-industrial complex. Let's combat this transhumanist agenda together. Thumbs it up, subscribe, and share if you're new to the YouTube channel. We've been demonetized for 3+ years. We've been kicked off many times. We get suspended all the time, but you can still get all my documentaries right here. Loose Change Final Cut, Fabled Enemies, Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined, and Shade the Motion Picture. Consider buying me a coffee. The links are down below to do that. Remember, all of my uncensored stuff is free over at Rockfin. Make a free Rockfin account, or you can subscribe for $9.99 a month. You want to do so on a desktop, endorse myself. You get everybody else's material on there as well. We're also on Podbean, and we rumbling live. So give me a follow. We still don't even have 1,000 followers over on Rumble. I really do appreciate you guys. I love you. Thanks for being here. Remember, all this stuff, not about Republicans or Democrats or conservatives or liberals. It's literally about the human race, the future of our species, and a techno-fascist takeover. See you on the flip.